Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the conference so far. Such a great 2 days, and of course, amazing speakers. Part of them are here for Q&A. We're gonna run this Q&A a bit different, so it's both in person and live. Usually every Wednesday we have Home Day Q&A in Flutter community, and so this time we decided to do a live session Q&A with our amazing speakers and Flutter community for Home Day Q&A in today. So everyone will watch us online, the entire community around the world, as well as you amazing people here. So I will read some question from the live stream, as well as the question that you will have here. So let me welcome everyone. Now we are live. Welcome everyone online. Hello. Welcome to the live stream and Q&A session from FlutterCon from Berlin. Let's make some noise that everyone know that we are here in Berlin live. Hello. All right, great. Thank you. Thank you for joining this session. And thank you, Scott and Randall. They've been on the live stream introducing us and give us this stage right now online to talk about Flutter. All right, how was your day?
Great.
You know that we can only go up from here, right? Mine was even better.
Well, mine was the best.
No, I had a fantastic time today. Can I just tell you all something about yourselves? I work on the Angular team, and we have a really great community. But I'm not going to lie, you all are really fantastic, and you're just an outstanding group of people. So give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us.
Give us a word of the day.
Word of the day? Oh, I'll give you the word of the day. Code push.
Oh.
Sure. Yeah, today was great. I got my slides finished, so that's a bonus.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so it's about questions. Any question, we'll take it, but I don't guarantee that I ask the questions because there are lots of them right now in my list and limited time. Well, let's get started. I will try to balance the question between here and the online people. So please ask your question if you are right now live on YouTube. And here, I don't know if you have a micro. You have a, okay, we have a microphone here, fantastic. So let's take the first question online. So because, well, they have not seen this conference in the last 2 days, I think they are now a priority. So, but you have been here and may ask some of your questions. Let's take one of them. And, well, some people are asking about community. It starts from there. And they are asking well, we see that Flutter community is growing very fast. And they are considering running some sort of meetups, gathering, and things like that. How can they do that?
Yeah, perfect question. So we have around 160 local meetup groups all around the world. And I know there are some organizers here. Hi, all the meetup organizers, and huge thanks to all of you for all you do. So yeah, and our local meetups are so important. So if you're interested in running your own local meetup, you're always welcome to start your own meetup. You don't have to do nothing in the beginning. It's literally you just go to meetup. If there's not a meetup in your city, you can create your meetup and run your first meetup, and then come back to us, which is on Twitter right now. This is the only official way right now. Let me know that you're running your meetup, and then we will reach out to you. Anna, my partner in crime, she is in the US right now, and she will help you to get in the meetup network.
Thank you very much. All right, let's take another question from audience. So who is, any question? Raise your hand, please, so we get the microphone. Can you please pass the microphone to this gentleman? Thank you.
So we have a situation where we have an app with multiple qubits. The qubits are used in the children and the parent components. And while testing, we run into a situation where we have to mock multiple qubits inside the tree. Is there any best practice and how to deal with the situation without having to mock all of them?
So you said qubits, right?
Yeah, qubits with block.
So that's
It's a nested qubits, more or less.
So, if I heard the question right, you've got a tree of dependencies that your widgets need. Your state management apparatus is a tree of classes, and come test time, you want to be able to mock that entire tree, right?
Yep.
Personally, I like the package Get It from Thomas Burkhardt, who may or may not be in the room, but he is at the conference. And that can kind of trigger an automatic cascade of loading certain classes. Like you just pick a certain class, and maybe in the constructor of that class, it accepts a parameter or has a fallback, whatnot. And you can use this dependency injection package to, again, kind of have this cascade through a bunch of different mocks. And the way that I set it up, you have kind of like one top level method or function that you define to actually kind of load up the Get It repository of all your different classes. And you run a real method that loads, like, kind of fills it with actual data repositories and an actual HTTP client and actual things when your app is running for real. And it fills it with mocks when your app is running in a test mode. And then all of your code just runs the same way in both of those environments. That works pretty well for me. You do have to be pretty careful when you're writing those methods that actually fill up the Get It repository. It's a bit delicate. There can be, you have to avoid circular dependencies, stuff like that. But then it works pretty well.
All right, fantastic. So thank you very much. Sorry, I have to welcome back again our online users. We had a little bit of hiccup, apparently. So welcome back, everyone. We are live from Berlin. We're going to make another noise to show you we are live here in Berlin. Again, everyone. Woo! So welcome in the live stream. I see the number is counting very fast. This is fantastic. If you have any question, leave the question in the comment on YouTube channel so it gets a start and I can ask the question from our amazing speakers. All right, let's take another question. This is a technical question. Someone asked, could you share any detail on debug log diagnostic on Go Router 9?
The what on Go Router?
Debug log diagnostics function.
Can you spell what you're saying?
Sorry for my bad pronunciation.
Okay. No, you're great. It's just echoey. So what about the debug log diagnostics?
Can you share some detail about that in Go Router 9?
I haven't seen the method, so does anyone else?
They literally said there is nothing in the documentation.
Don't use print statements.
That's the answer. Okay, good one. All right, so let's take another question from audiences. Any question?
Okay.
Ask very hard questions. Sorry. Who is asking? I don't see the hands.
It's me.
There you go.
Just attended a nice talk about accessibility. And I just learned that for web, the semantics is an opt-in option because of some performance things. What do you think about making it an opt-out option? So the developers can decide not being accessible?
I'm trying. So I had a conversation with the TL of the Flutter web team about exactly this quite a while ago. I was also hoping Eric might remember and just rattle off some details.
I have some vague recollection. So this is a persistent problem with accessibility APIs, and mobile, if I recall, sort of has a hack is maybe the wrong word, but mobile has this like lightweight accessibility where you can like leave accessibility on, and like the like password fillers or whatever that need it can like turn it on when they need, but it's otherwise. And the web, I think, sort of lacks this like dual modedness. So when like accessibility is on in the browser, you don't know that. Your job is to just always upload all of the accessibility data. And that's fine when you're HTML because the browser pulls that out of the HTML. When you're running a bunch of JavaScript and have to do a bunch of work to generate the accessibility, that's work. Again, Jaeger would know much better than I. You know, he's the right person I would find on Discord or whatever to ask that question to. But it's a balance.
And the other aspect, I'm trying to remember the exact mechanics of it, but part of why it's not opt-in was there is some aspect of privacy, and I'm very hand-wavy right now because I forget the mechanics. Do you remember this, Eric?
I don't necessarily remember a privacy concern. But again, it's that last point that I made that like this was one of the fundamental things that we reversed from the web because Flutter came from the web, where in the web, the whole model works by you upload your entire brain to the web, and the browser then decides, well, what size am I going to make you, and am I going to show accessibility stuff? And that makes it very difficult to write things in the way that, say, applications are written, where they're code first, and you want to generate things on demand. Because there isn't a callback, at least to my knowledge, on the browser where the browser can say, hey, we need the accessibility information. It just always needs it. So again, I could be getting the details wrong. These are questions that the web team would answer better.
Maybe I wasn't clear about that. So I learned that to enable semantics, you have to enable this flag, right? And you make a decision doing that. What I'm proposing is that you may need to make the decision to disable it, right? So you can still use or not use it, but we use it per default. So it's not about technical difficulties. So if you encounter technical difficulties on your web app, you can disable it, of course.
Well, you don't want the developer to have the on or off switch. You want the user to have the on or off switch for sure. Because a developer can be like, well, I want my website to perform really well, and I don't care about accessibility, so I'm going to turn it off so that 85% of people have a faster experience. You do not want to allow them to do that. If I understood what you were saying correctly. If not, you still don't want to allow them to do that.
If not, find him behind the door and ask more questions. All right, let's take another question. So anyone from audience, question? Good. So let's take that question, please. And our speaker, please speak closer to the mic. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great seeing you all here. My question is towards Firebase, and there's something about GDPR compliance. Because Firebase we generally use for Crashlytics and analytics, and there are, thank you. And there are options to disable ID collections and stuff like that, but that doesn't satisfy people from who doesn't have a non-technical background and maybe belong to legal backgrounds. So we also have come to know that Sentry, they would also have some regions in Europe soon, because they have their data centers in the US at the moment, and they also do Crashlytics sort of thing. So they are moving to Europe as well with their Crashlytics data centers or whatever. So that increases confidence of the end users using their tool. So does Firebase have some kind of plan in the same direction? Because today Firebase, all the servers are in US, and there is always something between EU and US about GDPR compliance and everything. So is there some kind of thing planned to improve, like boost the confidence of users, especially from EU region and stuff like that?
Thank you. Good question. So can Firebase be used? I'm going to paraphrase because there's a few things there, right? Can Firebase be used to build GDPR compliant applications? And yes, it can, right? We very much make sure of that. Is Firebase GDPR compliant? That's a question I can't answer, right? We're a set of services that you use to build something, and you can very easily build non-GDPR compliant applications, right, with Firebase. So yes, you can build it. You will have to work with your legal advisor to figure out what that means for you. We try to help in our documentation. We have for both Apple and Android, like what product uses what data, right, and how you can configure that. Right? We have documentation for that, so that is helpful. But you definitely always want to consult with your own legal department for that. Second part of your question is data storage. It's definitely not the case that all data for Firebase is all stored in the US. That's simply not how it works for us. But there are certain parts of the Firebase services that are not under your control where they are stored. Right? The top one that comes to mind is authentication data, for example. Right? If you use one of the built-in providers, the data is stored. It's actually stored globally, but it means that I can't tell you where it's stored. So yes, US. So still doesn't help you. If you build your own provider, though, you can control where it's stored, right? If you store the data in Firestore, just an example, you can say where you want the database to live, right? So that's your alternative for a service like that. Services like Crashlytics indeed currently don't provide you that option. I have nothing to announce at the time, but it's definitely something we're very aware of course. So,
Thank you. That answers.
All right, thank you very much. There is one question from audience. I think this is a good one. Someone is asking, like, what are some key considerations for code structure and important features that should be included when developing an app, specifically designed for persons with disabilities? Design consideration for accessibility, probably, or...
Well, I can start to talk about what the considerations are for accessibility. So I understand what the person was asking about, why it should be an opt-out, because as engineers, you should always build for everyone or build for nobody, right? Like it has to be for everyone. Think about all the potential users that you can have. One thing to do is to not add accessibility after you've completed your app. That is an anti-pattern that leads to a less accessible experience for those users. So up front, when you're, even from day one, you know how people say you should write your tests like test-driven development? You should have your accessibility at the front of your design. And so that'll help you from building applications that you have to go back and say, well, we'll add accessibility in 6 months. Think about your experience as a user who uses the internet in a more typical way. If someone said, well, we'll add buttons to the website in 6 months that you could use, that will be a really just disheartening experience for you. Now, think about how when you design your apps now, you don't add accessibility, you don't add the labels, you don't add the alt text. You're telling those same users that we really don't care about how you use the app because you can wait 6 months. So your first consideration is build in accessibility from the start. As you are building the tower of your app, start with accessibility right in those moments. I know it's hard, but the value that you add to all those users is more than worth it.
I was going to say there's one of the things that I do when building apps is to think of the user focus. So there's a widget called Focus Traversal Group. I think that's the one. And it lets you sort of control how the focus traverses your widget hierarchy. And just looking at Focus Manager and dealing with the focus in your app really helps. And when it comes to talkback and some of the other things you can turn on for sort of blindness, so you can also disable your screen. So you're literally left with a black screen that you can navigate through. And in my talk, I also said there's also the semantics debugger that you can turn on in the Tiro app, which also helps you visualize the semantic tree.
Anyone else? Sounds good. More question from, all right. Let's take this question, please. Yes.
Hi, hello. I'm wondering if you know, like, what is the hardest thing right now when you're trying to convince, like, big businesses to enter Flutter and decide for Flutter? When I have a lot of those conversations, because we have here a representation of a lot of businesses who decided to build their apps in Flutter, but matter of factly, very often I have the conversation in which it is hard to find some negative arguments against Flutter, but there are political arguments against Flutter. Mostly, I can hear that, okay, what kind of guarantee can we give to big businesses that Flutter will last? And how, because like with other technologies, it is often the case, like for example, companies who are offering the Flutter-based services can rely on the support from the framework providers, right? This is not the case with Flutter. With Flutter, we are left alone with our own argumentation, with a lot of cases that we can provide. But from the enterprise point of view, there's a lack of support. And if you were to follow the vision, Eric told us in the morning that we can have like 10 million of developers working on Flutter. We should start thinking about proper support for convincing big businesses to enter Flutter. What are your thoughts about that, and if we can expect that in the coming future?
Thank you.
I totally agree. As you might guess, based on my comments this morning, I no longer speak for Google, right? I don't work at Google anymore, but I can tell you that different companies operate with different cultures. And I think if I look at Microsoft from the outside, where I've never worked, they will sell you a support contract. Right? They understand that sales cycle. That is not a thing that I observed as much at Google. There is some of that on the cloud side, but I had no ability as lead of Flutter to sell you a Flutter support contract. Maybe that's changed. I don't know. Again, I don't speak for Google, but I imagine those sorts of support contracts, those sorts of hand-holding an enterprise is going to need to get built by others. And that is one of the reasons why you see me building a new company now, which I can't do that today. Our company's 6 months old, right? But I think that that's going to have to come from new entrants into the space for which that is a big opportunity and lots of money and lots of demand and lots of need. I just think that that's going to have to get, unless others who do represent Google have other things to announce, I think that's going to come from other parts of the space.
When folks reach out and are looking for kind of white glove service, we have a list of companies that we refer people to, kind of exactly to Eric's point about the best, the current best white glove service coming from kind of third party, I guess we'd say, just non-Google companies. In terms of Google continuing to support Flutter, obviously that's something that would just require a crystal ball to guarantee. Everyone here knows that Google has a reputation, like, RIP Google domains. But Flutter pays for itself inside Google by saving Google more engineers on internal projects than there are working on Flutter and Dart. And Flutter is in the green on that. So Google is not incentivized to pull the plug on Flutter. There's a lot of internal projects that would have to get scrapped or started over. There would be a lot of internal thrashing as well. So lacking the crystal ball, there can be no guarantee, sadly. But I think the future is pretty bright for Google-specific support for Flutter.
Yeah, just to put a triple big underline underneath that. So I did recently lead the Flutter and Dart teams until recently. I no longer speak for Google. I no longer speak for them. But I can tell you that Flutter way more than pays for itself inside Google. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of engineers using Dart and Flutter. All of Google's revenue, or almost all of Google's revenue, flows through Dart. This ain't going anywhere. So that is never a question. I recognize that Google does have some reputation. It's a large company. Things come and go. But that's never happening to Flutter and Dart. But again, as I said this morning, the future is much bigger than just Google. And to their point, there are great companies right outside there who want to help you with that. The big consultancies who have lots of Flutter knowledge and can sell contracts.
I think
Go ahead, Simon, and then Nilay can.
I was going to say on your first point, coming away from the Google side of things, on your first point, about companies picking up Flutter and Dart as a language or for the next project. What we've been seeing is more about questions about, well, it's a new language. How do we train our staff, and how long is it going to take to train them, and what is the roadmap for that? And I think that's a question that is also being answered right now. Like, as you saw, we got the sort of Flutter Academy coming along. There's plenty of people in the community that are doing stuff. I know Andrea's got a brilliant course he's doing. So I think the training side of things is also something that we need to pick up and then sort of see where it goes. But yeah, again, onboarding staff and having them trained and what sort of time period that takes is a big question.
Awesome. Nilay?
We all have a lot to talk about Flutter. I also want to add something. So I think your question was starting with what are some challenges that about convincing the enterprises. So this discussion also keeps coming in the community a lot recently. And one of the things I keep hearing is that enterprises are asking, are there big examples that some big applications or companies using Flutter? And then what I realized in this conference is that I just saw a game entirely built with Flutter, and it has 460 million users, or it's big. And most of the time we are not aware of these things. I think one thing maybe you can help us, that just let us know about these applications, especially if you are building apps for other companies, and reach out to us. We are all very accessible, so we can also share about it. Or you can share your stories. What are some challenges you face while building this big application? So these are how you solve this. We will also rely on your help, because we are not building big applications in the Flutter team. So you are doing that. I think we can work together to show these good examples and convince other companies.
Thank you. So then you know what you do, right? Okay. Let's take another question from online users. Well, that's a question is actually popping up 3 times right now here. I'm going to combine it in 2 questions into one. It's someone, or Miko said, is there any specific reason why Firebase packages don't always support all 6 platforms? And then the same person is asking another question. Are there any plans to have Dart support for Firebase?
Sorry, I think it's breaking up here. I'm going into a tunnel, I'm sorry. Just kidding. Not the first time I get this question, of course. In fact, I've answered it a few times. It helps to realize how Firebase supports Flutter. Right, so Firebase, okay, I'm going to call them Flutterflyer. So I'm going to put $1 in the swear jar. I shouldn't be using that, but the Firebase SDKs for Flutter are built by wrapping the native SDKs that we have for the platform. And we originally did that to make sure that they work the same as native platform applications, which was really important for us. So if you're running a Flutter app on iOS using Firestore, you're using the iOS SDK and wrapped in Flutter code. And then, right, that was great for a while when Flutter supported platforms that Firebase also supported. And then Flutter came out with Windows support. That was an issue for us because Firebase doesn't have a good SDK for Windows. So that's what we're fixing now. We're expanding the SDK that we have for Windows support to essentially be more complete. And then we're wrapping that with Flutter wrappers. So that's what we're doing. I first talked about that in January at Flutter Forward. And we had an update on that at Google I/O. And if you come to the Flutter event in Prague in September, we might have another update about that. So we're hoping to actually ship the first plugins at that point. Guillaume is getting very nervous right now about that. But we're working on it. We're very aware that this is wanted. That's half of it. That leaves the Dart part. So this is how we've built the Flutter SDKs, right? By wrapping the native SDKs. We get a lot of requests for Dart support. Now, on the client side, so on Windows and mobile support, we're not looking into that. We are definitely looking at what we can do to allow you to use Dart on the server. Currently, we don't have anything for that. I have no team actively working on it. I'm sorry, I can't say that. But there are good open source solutions for that. So there is I keep forgetting, I think it's Dart Fire or Fire Dart is a plugin. Check your package, I realize now. That is a pure Dart implementation that wraps the Firestore like API at the wire protocol and the authentication wire protocol. So you can use Firestore and auth already like that. And I can see that more packages are being wrapped. Now, these are not officially made by Firebase, but they still work fine. So I was talking to Eric, Captain Pixel, about the IO Flip game, and that uses Dartfire for its server side, and that works fine. FireDart. But that works great. So I recommend looking at those two. We are making progress. It's just going to take a while.
I would also just mention, and maybe I'll get myself in trouble here, but again, I no longer work at Google. Well, not everyone does, but yes. I would remind, so Firebase has many, many, many customers that they have to serve, and there are many, many, many products. Those products have alternatives, and those alternatives do support all 6 platforms. Many of them are out there in that exhibit space, and the Sentries of the world will happily take your crash reporting business, and the Realms of the world and the AWS Amplifies of the world will happily support all 6 platforms for you. And I'm not saying that you should use those necessarily instead of Firebase, but I'm just saying that, again, as a growing ecosystem, we have lots of alternatives. We can.
All right, thank you.
So first, Pooja was heckling Eric, and then Eric was heckling Puff, and then Puff was heckling you back.
That's good. All right, let's take another question here. Question, please raise your hand. It's a bit hard actually to see you. The lights are so bright here. But let's take another question. Please, microphone.
Thanks. After hearing Eric's talk about code push today, I was wondering, what is the panel's vision about app stores in the next 10 years? Should we still have them as the way they are right now? Or should we move towards a more open way as the web provides?
No comment, no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment.
That's a good question. Eric, there's one more question actually related. I mean, not related, but sure, but maybe I can also ask this if you want to answer. So someone online asked, like, when Shorebird will support native code changes?
I think the answer that I would give to the first one is that's an excellent question. The one that I would say to the second is my current understanding of the store rules from both Play and App Store is that they explicitly disallow changes to Java, Kotlin, Swift, and Objective-C parts of code. I could be wrong on that. I would need to go. So we currently have no plans of supporting non-Dart code changes in applications. But if I'm wrong, please come tell me I'm wrong, and happy to reconsider.
All right, good. Let's take another question here. Please raise your hand so I can see you. Can we get one person from this side?
Hello. First of all, thank you. We saw in Flutter 3.10 that actually we have right now media query, finally, as inherited model. Do you plan right now to have another widgets as an inherited model?
So wait, if I heard that right, I'm not sure I heard it right. It was something about a replacement for inherited model?
Yeah, I mean, right now media query moved to inherited model in 3.10, in Flutter 3.10. So my question is, if you are planning to move other widgets to inherited model?
No. Yeah, I don't think so. I've honestly never used the inherited model widget myself. My understanding of it is that its API is a little painful. And I remember when the provider package, don't know if you're here, Remy, hello. When the provider package appeared, folks inside the Flutter team were like, whoa, that's way better than what we were doing. Oh my gosh. And I think from that moment, the inherited model widget was just kind of out in the cold. And yeah, I think there's better options.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So let's take another question, please, from this side. Thank you.
Hi, thank you. My question is about WebAssembly and the WebAssembly support from Flutter. And what is the time frame we can expect this to be feature complete and for productive use?
Thank you. There's actually a similar question on web, so I'm going to repeat that. Someone asking, Flutter supporting WASM for web, when?
So again, I recognize this room knows, but the audience room don't. I don't work at Google. But when I last, I still have friendships to keep there. Anyways, when I last led the team and was involved in this, it wasn't Flutter that was the slow part here. And I'm going to try to pick on the WASM team. It was just like WASM is trying to do a really hard thing that they've been working on for 14 years, which is move the standards of the web to support, basically an assembly-like syntax. And the slow parts were that WASM GC, which is a new spec for integrating with garbage collectors, just wasn't even done or implemented in browsers. Until that happens, you can't do a language like Dart, or at least you can't do a language well like Dart. But my experience with that is that the Dart team has been chomping at the bit and, doing things with the WASM team the moment they come off the presses. And so I think it's just we're experiencing what it's like to be waiting on web standards. But ask a current member of the Flutter web team, and they'll give you the right answer.
Yeah, Kevin Moore is the person who is, he's the Flutter web PM. He's most up to date on that, goes to WASM conferences, gives Flutter talks, but not much to add other than that on what Eric said.
Actually, I think Kevin did just do a WASM talk at WASM conference or something. So maybe check that online.
If you search on YouTube, Kevin Moore and WASM Conf, you will find a talk, which is a fantastic talk by Kevin. You will find that. All right, sounds good. Let's take another question from here. Raise your hand, I see you. Let's take that question. And the room moderator, do we know how many times left? Do we have time? Should keep going?
Yeah.
We take all the question then. Please, go ahead.
Hi, I have a question about flavors on iOS. It seems that right now their creation is possible through creation of configuration and schemas only for the default runner targets. Do you guys have maybe some plans to add support for creation of other targets as well?
By other targets, you don't mean outside of iOS, kind of maybe making up your own names for new targets? Is that?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Great. So I understood the question, right? And I don't know.
Yeah, I was recently talking with Felix about this, who I work with at a company, and he was saying, I think VGV may have a library for managing some of this. I don't think we have the right people in this panel to answer that question, but there probably are the right people here. You just need to poke around a little bit.
Thank you.
I would go to the VGV booth.
That's good. Let's take another question here. Raise your hand, please. Let's take this question. I'm giving you some exercise. You are here, I'm asking you come here, you're here.
In this conversation.
That was not deliberate.
Thank you. One of the things that really struck me this morning about Eric's presentation is it was all around how we get the next 10 million Flutter developers, and the expectations of those developers will be that it will come as a grown-up ecosystem. And to me, that also means a grown-up ecosystem of packages. And I guess as someone that has been using Flutter for 5 or so years, I kind of feel like there's a bit of gap in terms of, how mature the Flutter framework is and how mature is the package ecosystem. So I was wondering if there are any insights from you guys that support it officially in terms of how the ecosystem could be made better from a packages point of view, and perhaps also touching on open source funding, if Google is not planning to tackle that directly, but maybe as a way to support community efforts towards that goal.
Thank you.
I'm just going to speak to some of that point, some of the points you just made. Yeah, I think the plugin ecosystem, each plugin has 6 different platforms. So to support every platform, you need to be an expert in iOS, Android, Mac, Windows, Linux, and so on and so forth. And it's hard, not just for the community, but for the Flutter team themselves. From mine and Majid's point of view, we spoke to the Flutter team, and we've been having directly speaking with them about the community packages. So several of the packages that were deprecated, official packages, like let's say Sensors, we took on as being Sensors Plus, and we shifted focus into the community support. And we're having experts from the community in those different areas. So we've got people from Microsoft and other people that are contributing to open source that are coming and working on the Windows side of the plugins and things like this. So I think it's hard to, from my point of view, and I don't speak for Google, but from
yeah, but not working for Google.
But yeah, it's hard from my business background. I can say it's hard to manage that sort of team size and have experts in all those different fields. So there's only so many hands, right? So I think it's something that's going to continue growing, and I think the community is going to have to help along the way, right? If we want it to succeed, we have to come together as a community to make that happen, and that's what we've been trying to do with the Flutter community plus packages, for example.
Yes, I mean, I can say some. I'm not part of this panel. I'm not supposed to answer, but since this is talking about Flutter community, as Simon mentioned, we're actively trying to encourage a community to come and help us to grow the community or grow these plugins. This is a very hard job to do. As Simon mentioned, we need experts in different fields, right? One of a very successful example of taking over plugins from Flutter team to Flutter community and grow afterward was Plus plugins. We took over 2 years ago, I believe. It was 3 years ago. I don't remember exactly. And it was only 2 platforms supported on each of these plugins. And we added all platform support. And until today, we have still a team working on that. We appreciate community help. So if you just say we need this community to grow, the ecosystem grow, without doing anything, the community will not grow. So please step in, come up forward, and just do something. A small piece, send a PR, fix the documentation. Write an article, a good one, or try to get fixed one small bug which you are seeing. These are, I think, the things that we definitely need. And one more thing that I can tell you, in Flutter Connect, in Google I/O Connect in Amsterdam, we had a talk with some of the leaders. We talk about this as well. And I can say that from Flutter community point of view, we're actively trying to collaborate with Flutter team to see how we can have this collaboration even better in different ways. Maybe financial support, maybe different supports.
Thank you.
When I like that you did touch on the financial aspect, and I'm unaware of any plans from Google in that space, but I think that touches on just open source author burnout, which is a huge problem. And really the heroes of any ecosystem are the people that are contributing their labor, their thoughts, their effort from evenings and weekends, and one thing that I would just encourage the entire Flutter community to do to help folks who are giving us their time and their sweat and their effort is to always just engage with kindness online with authors of packages. Like the Flutter community is so great. And let's hold ourselves to that standard. And when you're talking about a package that you either like or dislike online, remember that its author gave their Saturday mornings to you, and just keep that in mind when you're discussing their API decisions. Maybe you have alternates in mind, but they're facing burnout, and we're all using their software, every single one of us, and almost none of us give them anything for it. So we can at least give them our kindness and our thanks.
I guess I would say one last thing. I'm personally passionate about this project. I think we can do a lot better. I think I'd be really interested in engaging in longer conversations, not here on stage, with people who feel like they have ideas as to what we should do here. This is not something I'm tackling this moment. I have some code push things to finish. But I think we can do a lot here. I think I have some position to do more now that I'm no longer have other incentives to operate under. And I'd love to talk about prior art. I'd love to talk with people who feel like certain packages that are working really well in this ecosystem or in others, or in other ecosystems where you feel like they've solved this problem better than we do. Because I think we have a lot of options on the table. We're about to experience a ton of growth, and I think we can really do well here. I would like some help.
Thank you. Nilay?
And one last thing from me is that I'm just going to talk about it from the community perspective. So open source is a very different problem from the rest of the community, because when we're talking about the open source community and open source contributions, because people are using what they are creating, they have to be really good and they have to be very well maintained. So other stuff, some people can retire from the other stuff, but for this part, that has to be maintained either by the author or another person. And this is why this is a different problem to tackle with. And I have to admit that, like, we in the Flutter team, we did, I know the team is trying to do something, but we don't know how to solve this properly yet. But I know something that I'm not gonna, we have a new PM, we have some engineers working on this. They started talking about this more actively, and there will be some things coming up, especially for the package authors in the fall. I'm not gonna tell more, but yeah, there will be more discussions coming up about this ecosystem. But yeah, this is a different problem, and we would love any help, as others said, for this.
Thank you. Let's give it up. All right, thank you very much. Thank you, all of you. So, to be kind and be on the stage answering questions. There are a lot of other questions here. Unfortunately, I'm sorry for online users, we're not able to ask all the questions because of the time. We're over time actually right now, 1 minute. But thank you very much for joining us, both online. You please give it up very loud. One more time. I hope you will enjoy tomorrow as well. Stay here because we're going to have movie time, some kind of movie, old time or stuff like that. You check the program, and I hope you enjoy rest of the event, rest of this evening in the event, and good luck.